Okay, now that we've got a few of the basics and the mechanics of French grip using the push and pull technique, we are going to move over to the German grip and see how that translates to the push-pull technique. Now, the first thing we want to make sure is that we set the hand correctly in German grip. So we're going to start with some exercises to set up the hand in German grip. Again, these exercises were shown to me by Bruce Becker, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So the first exercise will not involve any strokes yet, only really the placement of the stick in the hand. And that is really crucial when it comes to German grip. In German grip, we have the palms facing down. Now the fulcrum point in French grip is very easy to understand. It's there between the thumb and the index finger. Now in German grip, it's a little bit more nuanced. The fulcrum point can move between this finger here, which is the middle finger, and the index finger. And let me try to explain why that is. You might remember from previous clips that we spoke about this motion here, where the hand is opening and closing according to the position of the wrist. When I release my wrist like this downwards, the fingers will open. And when I do this with the wrist, the fingers will draw to a close. So that is quite easy to understand. But now let's look at a little nuance. If you notice my index finger in relationship to the other three fingers here, you will see that the index finger opens up just a little bit more than the other three fingers. Okay? Now this is very personal. Some people will have the index finger open up even a bit more. Some other people will have the index finger close a little closer to the other fingers. But try this for yourself and see how far your index finger is going outwards. Now let's see how this nuance of movement works when we play in German grip. Now we know that one of the strengths of German grip is the fact that we can readily use the wrist. It's very apt for wrist movement. Now we also know, as I demonstrated before, that the index finger would really like to sort of go out of the mix a little bit. That's what happens when we do a downstroke in a German grip. The index finger will want to come out. Now this could be a very subtle thing, and it could be a very pronounced thing, depending on your hand and also depending on the angle you're using with your wrist. Of course, this has to do with the height of the drum, how high you sit, and so on. Now check out what happens when we do this. When we release that index finger a little bit off the stick and it comes out, the fulcrum point now will move to the middle finger. Okay, so we are basically always negotiating, always moving between the middle finger and the index finger, depending on the angle of where we are within the stroke. I'm assuming that if you've done the previous exercises in French grip, you probably have a little bit more of a sense of the stick in your hand right now, and you'll feel that conversation or nuance between the index finger and the middle finger. We will start with this position here. As you can see, my wrist is loose and I'm holding the stick, or maybe not really holding the stick, or leaning the stick on my little finger and ring finger and middle finger. And basically I'm using those three fingers sort of like a shelf. Now I'll put the stick on the fingerprints of the hand, just right there. And in the back of the hand, the stick will lay on the outer quadrant of the hand. I hope you can see that. Try not to put the stick here, this will limit your motion. If you hold the stick too much far ahead here, you'll end up cradling the stick and choking the sound of the drum. So just right here. And so you can see that I'm basically leaning the stick on these three fingers here, and the thumb and the index finger are not engaged yet. Okay, from here I'm going to squeeze the stick into the hand like this. With no particular rhythm, just try to do this as slow as possible. Okay, now an important point here is that when you reach the end of the motion here, the placement of the stick. And I'm pointing here to this place here, let's call it the inside of the bone. So we've got a bone right here. We don't want to put it on the bone. We don't want to put it outside of the bone. We want to put it in from the inside of the bone. Okay? And of course not so much here. And then again you'll end up cradling the stick. Okay? So very, very slowly, and try to pay attention to the placement of the stick. Okay? This is a really, really important basic exercise for German grip. Okay? And of course, do this with the other hand as well, as long as you need to feel that placement of the stick. In the next exercise, we are going to hold the stick with all fingers. Okay, so there are two versions of this exercise. The first one is using all fingers on the stick, and also notice that I still have this gap here, and there's a lot of space inside the hand. And this is really important because your hand is actually like a resonance chamber, and it's really part of the sound. So try not to do that or to do that, or all sort of things that drummers do, and keep that space there. In this exercise, we are going to squeeze the stick up like this. Now, an important point here is I don't want just to lift my wrist like this. I want to use the little finger and the ring finger to do that. So think about the little finger and the ring finger and this muscle here as a circuit. It's like a circle, and you want to close that circuit as if you are closing an electrical circuit. Okay, so using the internal muscles of the hand here, you're going to try and close that gap. And now while you're doing that, this will motivate your wrist upwards, like this. In the next motion, we're just going to drop the stick without making a strike, but just dropping the stick like that. And repeat again. Squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. And really try to do this not faster than this. You can actually do this even slower. So this is a squeeze release in German grip. Now another version which I would really recommend practicing is the same exercise but moving the middle finger off the stick. When you're doing that, you're really developing, number one, you're developing the sensitivity of these two fingers and that propelling motion, plus the relationship between the thumb and the index finger here in relationship to the fulcrum. Okay, so this will, it might feel a little bit awkward, but I would recommend doing it this way as well. Okay, so this is with the middle finger off and with the middle finger on.